Welcome, everyone. We're going to train you all today on how to write letters to the editor. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. So, today on our agenda, we're going to learn why we need to write letters to the editor, how to plan your letter, what makes a good letter, what does a good letter include. We'll go through a letter outline, some tips, a sample letter, and next steps. So, first, why write letters to the editor? Well, because we know elected officials pay attention to them. It is an opportunity to shape how your community thinks about an issue, and it adds another perspective, especially for those of you that live in deep red counties. It also raises awareness on issues, policies, and bills that maybe not everyone knows about. And you can argue for or against an issue in your letter. So, planning your letter. Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to identify your local newspaper's letter to the editor and review their submission process. You need to verify the word limit that is set up by your local paper. Many local papers limit the word count to somewhere between 150 words to 300 words. So many of the newspapers are also going to ask you for your contact information along with your letter. And that's going to include your name, your address, your phone number, your email address. It also may include a photograph. I know I wrote a letter to the editor and they asked me for a picture because they decided that they were going to run it. Also, don't be afraid of submitting letters to the editor to small newspapers as well as large ones. So, what makes a good letter? Well, you have to remember to stay focused on your topic. Stay within the word count limits. And if your letter gets too long, it is absolutely okay to write a second letter. You need to be clear, you need to be concise, you need to be your authentic self in your letter. And if you're a constituent, you need to write that because your voice matters. And also consider adding a personal story or experience into your letter. That's okay too. So, what does every good letter include? Well, it references to the issue or anything that is timely that's in the news. You need to talk about the problem. You need to pivot to the solution or the policy. You need to have an invitation, a call to action. And in your conclusion, you need to close by talking about the original point that you were talking about to begin with. You need to check the tone of the letter. You want to be respectful, optimistic, timely, but it's also okay to be witty. And humor is always a great way to get a point across. The letter outline. Well, the first sentence should explain what it is you're writing about and why it is important. Example, I am writing about why we need to vote for pro public education candidates this November. Body, this is where you tell your personal story, like why things matter to you. This is your why statement. And then you need to close by asking readers to take a specific action, like voting for somebody, like go vote for Jennifer Lee, go do this, go vote for pro public ed candidates. Here are some tips. Don't assume that your audience knows about the issue. Not everybody knows about absolutely every issue, so just try to keep it educational and a little bit simplistic. Keep your message between 1 and 3 points. Your letters can be creative, they can be personal, and they can absolutely be written with passion. Here's a sample letter. This is in response to an article that was in the Dallas Morning News. The article was written by Joe Strauss. So here we go. Thank you to former Texas House Speaker Joe Strauss for his column on funding Texas public schools. As always, money is key. Today, there are about 330,000 Texas students in private schools and about 5.5 million in public schools. Clearly, there are not enough schools to accommodate students who might want to choose private school. Don't worry, Austin has lots of money for education, and with a price tag per student, New schools will spring up. For every student recruited, that school owner will get between $6,000 and $10,000. Then capitalism jumps into action. As we've seen with for profit private prisons, the new owners will be focused on one thing: profits. Less money spent on education means more money will be left as profit to the owners. Don't allow education of your students to become a product to generate profits. Ask candidates for the Texas legislature specifically whether they favor school vouchers. Don't be distracted by vague statements about supporting education. Get a yes or a no on vouchers specifically. Hint: every Democratic candidate will say no, they do not support vouchers. Most Republican candidates will vote for vouchers, whether they explicitly say so or not. Jan McDowell, Carrollton, Texas. Here's another sample letter. Demand public school funds. Strauss's column on the need for more public school funding left off an important action plan for all advocates public schools in Texas. That action plan is for all of us to contact our legislators right now by email, phone, text message to tell them to add more funding to our public schools in January when they return to Austin. And if you are against voucher programs that will pull even more money from our schools, then let them know that as well. Share with them how unhappy you are that despite having a record amount of money available, our schools have not had an increase in funding since 2019. Do it often. Ask your family and friends to also advocate for public schools as well. Our legislators need to hear your voice loud and clear. Things won't change until they consistently hear from us. Don't forget to reach out to the governor and lieutenant governor. Need help finding your district legislators? Use this link. Using your active voice to advocate for public education is the only way things will change. Rebecca Good, Allen, Texas. So those were two really good examples, but what are our next steps? Well, we're going to ask volunteers to join our Signal channel. We're going to post weekly themes and we're going to share articles of importance. We're going to share letters that are sent by other people in the group and try to keep track of any kind of published letters to the editor. Then that way, when we're all done, we'll be able to reflect on the impact that we were able to make in turning Texas blue this November. So with that, I'm just going to say thank you very much for watching our training, and I hope that you join our Letters to the Editor team.